Welcome to what is sure to be an exciting episode of the IoTSSA Experts Panel. I'm your host, Brian Sherman, Director of Content for IoTSSA. We have an informative, interactive discussion on tap today with three MSPs who sit on the IoTSSA Advisory Board. First off, we have Guy Baroan, President of Baroan Technologies. Good day, Guy.
Hello.
Brian Weiss, CEO of ITech Solutions. Hello, Brian.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on the part of the world you're in.
I think you're in morning, I'm in afternoon. We're all over the place today. And last but not least is Ed Bensinger, Chief Executive Officer for Bensinger Consulting. Welcome, Ed.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Well, I'm glad you could all join us today. Can we just kind of do a quick round robin of the team? Just talk a little about yourself and your company, and maybe where your business is currently at with the COVID-19 situation. We're all in the midst of it. So if you could let us know maybe how your clients are faring through first, and then we'll dive a little more into your businesses after that. Why don't we start with Brian?
Sure, thank you. So ITech Solutions, we're based out of San Luis Obispo, California. We've been around since 2005, and we've grown to a size of 13 employees. We manage about 70 clients across a little over 2,000 devices. Our clients range from as small as 5 computers up to our largest co-managed client, which is currently at 650 users. And luckily, we are spread out in several different verticals. We don't specialize in any one vertical, although in our area it is a tourist attraction. So we do have a fair amount of hospitality, wine industry here. And I would say probably about a third of our clients kind of fit that bill. So we've gotten over the rush of getting our clients set up to work remotely from home. And we're now currently in discovery mode, if you will, where we're trying to identify the client health across all of our clients, not only checking in with the clients we've set up to work remotely to make sure that everything is good to go for them, maybe recommending like Microsoft Teams if they haven't really embraced that yet to help with communication, but even the clients that we haven't really heard back from yet, maybe that are shut down or running minimal staff. And my plan is to do kind of like an owner to owner reach out and kind of just have a candid conversation of, how are you doing? What barriers are you running into? Is there anything we can do to help? Just because that's the unknown for me right now, is how is this going to affect my business? I think the MSPs out there that aren't specialized in one vertical are kind of in that unknown space of how are things going to look for me over the next coming months. And I think getting an idea of your client health is a great way to kind of try to plan for that, and be proactive about it.
Yeah, it makes sense. I know I talked to MSP earlier today who did about 90% of his clients are restaurants, and he's really struggling right now after he's got them all set up. So it's different challenges. Ed, why don't we go to you next?
Hi, Ed Bensinger Consulting. We're based out of Phoenix, and we don't really have a specific vertical. If you want to get close to vertical, we do a lot of manufacturing distribution. But we, in Phoenix, we do have a lot of visitors, shall we say, right? So we do have a couple, but we were pretty fortunate. Only 3 of our clients were forced to close. And basically one was by the State Department because they do J-1 visas. They didn't really have a choice, elective surgery. But being in manufacturing and even housing, these are deemed essential. So most of our clients are really just moving forward. Our largest client's actually a pharmaceutical manufacturer. And we were right in the middle of a project. And to be honest with you, during this downtime, the project has grown. So it's actually, we are completely moving forward. There's no slowdown whatsoever. Some of our other clients, like even in commercial real estate, I know real estate's being hit hard right now, but luckily our client had their best quarter right before this happened. And we actually had a QBR in January. Their servers and SANs getting a little old. And we were discussing about, budgeting and everything sometime this year, maybe next year, replacing everything. And since they did have such a great quarter, they actually called me and reached out and wanted to talk about moving up the project quicker during their downtime and slow time. So, you got to keep in touch with your clients and know where they're at, what they're feeling, because there's still opportunity out there if you have the right clients. So.
Yeah, excellent point. And Guy, why don't we go to you? What's a status for you right now with your clientele?
Yep. So I'm Guy with Baroan Technologies out of Elmwood Park, New Jersey. And the majority of our clients are in the New York City metropolitan area, but that's where their headquarters are. And then they have remote offices across the United States. So our typical type of a client in the industry, like Ed was saying, we don't have a particular vertical, but within all of the different clients that we have a few of the same type of industries. So our focus typically is manufacturing, healthcare, staffing, marketing, distribution. And, as far as how our clients are faring, I would say depending on the industry. So retail, we have a client that closed down. They have shops all across the United States. Very big organization, basically let everybody go and shut down. And then we have another client, again, just two clients that we've had that were falling victim to what's going on right now. But they deal in the corporate entertainment, corporate group, specialty industry where they're helping through sports and other areas to bring people together to talk about teamwork and help in their corporate environment. So they basically, because of the rules of the distancing, they had to shut down, let go of everybody, furlough everyone that they have. And then, it's, I guess, when things come back, they will reopen. As far as how the other clients are doing, over the last 6 years, we've been working with our clients to get them to the cloud. So this was, it was very painless from the perspective of what did they need to do to get to having everybody work remotely. And those that took us up on the recommendations, certainly when we called them up and worked with them, they said, thank God we did what you guys recommended because it's really made a difference. Going with what Brian was saying, touching base with all of the clients. So I have been in communication with all the business owners and asking them how they're doing and figuring out who potentially is a risk, where we can help. And, for the most part, everybody was doing okay. I think they're very similar to us. It's a wait and see. They don't know. It's a trickle effect. Will they be able to collect on their receivables? Will they be able to continue business? And will their clients pay them? And I think the question is, are we going to get paid? So as far as being able to provide services, we're able to do that. The question is, will we get paid? Will they get paid?
That's a good question. And hopefully some of the stimulus programs right now that are in effect, everybody's figuring their way through that process.
Yeah.
The government process, it's going to take a while, obviously, but hopefully it will make many of the businesses, including yours and your clients, as whole as possible as we get through this. Now, I know, Ed, you had mentioned you're working on some projects right now and scope's kind of climbing, but what about the rest of you as far as activities that you and your teams are conducting during the crisis? Because things are a lot different, I'm sure, for you, even though many of you may have remote employees. What's changed and what does a typical day look like now? Why don't I go to you, Brian?
Yeah, so one of the things we're still kind of fine tuning is recognizing that we need to kind of expand our support hours with people working from home. There's cases where, parents might be spending time during the day helping homeschool their client or their children.
Sure.
And then making up for that time in the evening while they're working, and whether or not they run into issues there. Also, definitely kind of to Ed's point earlier, making sure we identify projects with those clients that either are still, moving forward business as usual, and still have items on their roadmap that they're wanting to accomplish, or identifying projects that are easier to do right now, maybe because we don't have a bunch of employees working in the office, things that would normally be done maybe after hours or something. So the way I look at it is I'm probably going to have, these are guesstimates, right? 20 to 30% temporary drop in maybe some recurring revenue based on our client set. Again, I'm figuring that out in more detail to give myself a better feeling there. And then a potential lull in projects from clients that are hesitating on wanting to spend money right now for whatever reason, and then trying to replace that income with clients that are ready to, do new projects or wanting to continue. So I'm trying to balance the potential loss with other opportunities. And the other thing we're doing with the remote workforce at our own company is trying to stay in touch with our employees more. And so we're having regular check-ins with everyone on Zoom, continuing all our meetings as normal, but now on Zoom. Just making sure that my employees don't feel like they're lost on an island working all by themselves, trying to keep our culture maintained of the teamwork aspect.
Yeah, trying to nurture them along, not necessarily punish, but I think we're finding a lot of people feel like they may be left on an island and not used to working remotely. So it's a different experience. And Ed, I apologize. I think I cut you off when I shot over to Brian. Why don't I pick you up at that point?
So I guess you can call it fortunate, but all of my employees have always worked from home. So this really isn't a transition at all for us. I mean, we use Teams, we use our, phone app and Nextiva app to communicate, desktop share. We've been doing it basically since 2003. So it's really no change for us. And my employees are kind of scattered throughout Phoenix and in Arkansas. So, I mean, to us, it was no big deal. And like I mentioned, all our clients were already set up for remote access. Most of them use the same phone system we use and everything else. So transitioning our clients to home was actually pretty simple because they use the same tools we do, and they've been using them for, the last 3, 4 years, 5 years. So it was actually kind of nice. I mean, where we ran into problem is some of the shortfalls with not being able to find webcams, not being able to find USB headsets, because they're all sold out. So we are preparing for that for, if this should happen in round 2 next winter, like they say it could happen. So coming out of this, I'm going to be talking to all my clients about, how things went, where things fell through the cracks, like the headsets, lack of laptops, everything like that. So we can prepare for this if it does happen again next time.
Yeah, so you can tighten up the plans a little bit for each of your clients. So it's like the A-team. You love it when a plan comes together for the most part, though, right? You've been building for this with the cloud and with the remote teams. That's awesome.
I don't know if these young guys know who the A-team is.
Well, there was a movie just like 7 or 8 years ago, so I'm depending on that part, not necessarily the show. But how about you, Guy? What's life like? Work life like for you and your team right now?
So similar to Ed, we've already been able to work remote. We have a voice over IP system. Many of our engineers are able to work remote. And, every day we have a daily morning huddle. So we have an 8 o'clock call. Everybody calls in so we can talk to everyone, find out if there's anything they want to discuss, any issues going on that anybody else should be aware of. So we have that happening and have been having that take place for years now. Just opening up, being honest with our employees, letting them know where we as a company stand. Things that if they have any questions, there's a lot of news out there. There are a lot of companies that are letting people go. So we're just being open and honest and asking them to ask us any questions about anything. Just want to make sure that they have no questions, no concerns of where we are as a company, what we're doing to make sure that we keep everybody. We love the team that we have. Everybody's fantastic. The last thing we would want is to split this up and have anything change. So we're just, the way that we're working is remotely. Everybody can do anything. It's really the situations that come up when you need to go on site. But as far as how are we working, we're conducting business as usual. And it's really just projects and on site. When they come up, they're taken one at a time.
Yeah. It's the interesting part, I think, with the transition is not just the people that are. I work in the tech community with all of you, for years now, and everybody's comfortable with teleconference meetings and stuff. It's amazing when we push everybody out. Is the questions you get about teleconferencing, Zoom and WebEx, and that is, I feel like I'm doing triage a lot of times with the Boy Scout groups that I work with and stuff. But what types of challenges are you encountering? What do you think is the biggest one or biggest two that you might have? I'll just throw that out there for the team. Anybody who wants to throw it out?
I can start. So yeah. I think the biggest challenges are what happens if we need to go on site right now.
Good one.
The question is, do we know how the client is? Who's been in the office? How careful are they? We're effectively leaving it up to, it's a voluntary question. If we do have any kind of an on-site meeting that is required, on-site appointment, we're taking all precautions. First, we're asking whoever it is that we're thinking about sending whether or not they feel comfortable going. And if they do, we then contact the client and try to figure out when we can come in at a time when it's not going to affect our employees, so that nobody's really there to allow us in and let us do our job without really affecting the health. If our people don't feel comfortable doing that, then we basically have to find an outsourced option, which we have the capability because we've been doing that across the states that we don't support physically, that we can't get to. We have companies that we work with and partner with for remote hands. So, we might have to open that up a little bit. So that's one of the challenges. The other challenge is what's going to happen this week. This month was okay. This week coming up is going to be okay. The following week, hopefully is okay. But what happens the few weeks after that if the payments stop coming in from the money that's due? So again, hopefully the stimulus, the unknown, is really the challenge. And, just touching on what Ed and Brian were saying regarding equipment, the laptops were already, there's a shortage of laptops in the market with Intel's miscalculations, AMD being sold out, the Chinese manufacturing being shut down, and then everybody working from home, everybody grabbed whatever they could. Right. So anything that was available, finding any kind of equipment now, I think that's just been a challenge.
Yeah, I understand that myself because I need a replacement and it's been delayed and delayed.
Yeah.
Why don't we go over to you, Brian? What type of challenges are you running into?
I think the overarching challenge is that there's just been so much change in a short amount of time, and it's definitely feels like a fire drill. I think about, I'm starting to get webinar fatigue. I've signed up for so many webinars and been so, my peer groups have these great town hall sessions, and it's just a flood of information about what everyone is experiencing, what they're doing to mitigate it, and then trying to apply that to my own company, my own employees, my own clients, and hope that I've thought of everything and, to keep everyone's best interest in mind. And definitely, I think the big one out there, which is like the liability factor that Guy brought up, like if we do have to go on site and what are the concerns around that? The last thing I want is one of my employees to be, infected through a work, right? And how to deal with that. I don't even know if there's case law for that yet. But there's that aspect and trying to minimize that. There's the there's how are we going to survive this financially, and what's my new go-to-market strategy that is completely changed from all the hard work I put in, end of last year, beginning of this year of like, here's our go-to-market strategy this year. And then that's completely out the window now. Right. And now I'm like, okay, what am I doing now? And then there's, the uncertainty around my employees and trying to be a good leader for them and help keep them together as a team, so that they're not personally, getting overwhelmed by fear. My clients, reaching out to them regularly, using this as an opportunity, I guess, to build relationships or rebuild relationships with clients is something I'm looking at doing. Not necessarily trying to sell them something, but just being there for them. I feel like, I could come up with a new challenge every day. And it's just a matter of which fire is bigger right now and which one seems like the item I need to work on now to help everyone around me, I guess. And then also maintain my insanity or my sanity, not insanity.
Well, you can have a little of both. You're allowed to have a little insanity at this point too.
There you go.
And Ed, any points to share? I know we've covered a lot of challenges, and there are a lot of challenges, but what other thoughts do you have?
Well, I have to agree with Brian and Guy again, like the lack of hardware. And like I said, we're still doing projects. Some of these projects are now being delayed because mainly for storage issues. Storage is getting hard to find. Another thing my clients are starting to struggle with is actually keeping track of productivity of their employees now at their home. I think everyone understands that it might drop a little bit. Some might be dropping more than others because not everyone can work from home. It's just the way it is. So it kind of led to actually me looking, how do I do this? And who do I partner with? And I found like Hubstaff and InterGuard, so now we can basically even load it on people's machines so it can send us screenshots throughout the day and they can see what they're doing if you want to get as in-depth as key logging. So this is all going to be critical. And to be honest with you, I mean, it's just my opinion, but I have a feeling that once we get through this, especially the longer it lasts, I have a feeling that you'll see a lot more people working from home and these needs will become greater. So kind of get your ducks in a row as a provider so you can help your clients and be a better partner with them and make sure you are valuable to them. So at this time.
And I think one of the things, that's great advice, Ed, especially on some of these, I know the screen share, I've seen a lot of the forums where everybody's coming together to kind of think through all of the issues online, whether it's on LinkedIn or even on Facebook. There's so many good places to go, although there's also 50 different solutions and pros and cons. So I don't know how you guys go through all of this and try to determine which one, makes the most sense. But I guess that's part of leadership. You gotta grab the bull by the horns and figure out which works. By the way, we did a podcast with attorney Brad Gross about that very liability discussion. I think Guy, you brought up too, and Brian mentioned about obviously ethical. You want, when you're sending people texts out, it sounds like you guys are going through the, is it necessary? What do we have to do? And what precautions can we put in place? But Brad actually goes through the legal liability side of it too. We do have that podcast up on IoTSSA.com too. For those of you who want to listen to it, great advice. And he's an IT services specific attorney. So I'd take a look at that. But I am not an attorney, so I won't dive into that topic at this point. So with so many unknowns, and I think you kind of touched on it, Guy, especially too, so many unknowns, what type of business plans are you developing? How are you developing business plans? I'll throw that out. Anyone have a suggestion?
I'll jump in. So this is one item of our go-to-market strategy which hasn't changed, and that's that we are standardizing all of our clients on the Microsoft stack with Azure AD, Intune, Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint. And luckily, us as a company and some of our clients were already on that. So the transition to a remote workforce becomes a lot easier. So that's one thing. I think the conversation about moving to the cloud entirely and having the ability to work remotely is going to be a lot easier with clients moving forward, kind of to Ed's point, where you're going to see a lot more people continue to work from home after this. And it's going to be fostering that need and ultimately new environment, which I think MSPs are primed for. I mean, one of the great things that we have the ability to do is manage multi-tenancy, right, across all our clients, across many different networks. And so another item that's not changing other than maybe the industry, because we're looking at businesses differently now. Is this an essential industry? Is this not an essential industry? But the co-managed space. So companies that have in-house IT departments that don't have the built-in skill set or tool set to be able to manage remote networks and locations like MSPs are primed to be able to do out of the box. With everyone working from home, moving forward, or a lot of people, those are technically new networks that we have to be responsible for, right? And it's an expansion of this one company network that we used to be responsible for. So I think the idea around MSPs being prepared to start managing and keeping home networks secure for remote workers, or at least devices on home networks secure, is going to be something new. And then fostering technology that allows the remote workforce to enablement while keeping things secure. And then, of course, for us, the co-managed industry is what we're looking to get into more of. Larger clients with in-house IT departments that need the extra help. I still see a value in in-house IT. I'm not going after that market trying to replace that, but I think that MSPs have a lot to offer a company with that infrastructure, especially moving forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. Guy, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, so similar. Security is very valuable, and we're going to continue to push the security, the requirement for our clients to really have everything that they need in place. And the reason is, like Brian was just saying, I mean, now they're using their home computers. They're opening up tunnels that they didn't have before. Maybe these are unmanaged computers, so there's a vulnerability. So really pushing our clients to make sure that they have as much security as necessary in place to be able to protect the assets that they have. Continue to push them to Office 365 and Azure. Figure out where some of the items were lacking. Maybe they had faxing that was still not imported to a service that's in the cloud. And then also very similar to what Brian was saying too. We feel that based on this, a lot of companies are going to be letting go of their in-house IT. So I think some of the planning and the business plans will be to go after companies that in the past, maybe they had their own in-house staff and they weren't really interested. So revisit a lot of those opportunities to discuss how we may be able to help to augment. Maybe they won't have as large a staff anymore. So maybe there'll be opportunities for us there to leverage a lot of the automation that we bring now.
That's a very good point. It gives them some options to pivot kind of the business plans moving forward as well. Mm-hmm. Ed, why don't I go to you? What lessons have you learned from this experience? I know there's been a lot of things, and even though your plans are probably aligned with what you're doing, what is your takeaway as far as things that you can do better or that your clients can do better in the future? I think you mentioned one would be to make sure that everybody is very tight with their cloud applications and have all of their equipment stuff set up. But what other lessons?
I think one of the biggest lessons is to me, how dangerous BYOD is. Since we are starting to, have people work from home and they're asking us to install the VPN clients on people's home machines. So, I mean, like I said, after this is over, part of my QBRs next time is to make sure we can avoid that in the future. Not that employees, they're pretty much trusted, but, we all work in the IT field. We know that a lot of times the kids at home are a little more IT savvy than the parents that we support. And when you put that VPN client on the home machine that's shared by little Timmy and Susie and everyone else in the family, strange things can happen. So that, I think, was kind of the unforeseen thing where, before everyone had remote access, but we were controlling the machines that did have access to the network. So we were still updating them, securing them, and everything else. Now, with the explosion and the quick turnaround and lack of availability of hardware, we had to do what we had to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we had to make some sacrifices. So when this is over, it's time to clean it up and get back to it and prepare. So
this is a good time to go through and assess where all of those gaps may be in where they are and where you'd like them to be in the future.
Correct.
How about you, Brian? What lessons are you taking away from this experience?
Push for remote workforce enablement more with our clients. We've been, probably more relaxed than we should have been with some of our clients, in the sense that we've recommended certain technologies that they felt like they just didn't have a strong enough need for. And, in some cases, depending on their needs, it maybe made our job easier more than anything, just managing the client, right? But I think that, what's nice about that is those conversations are going to get easier now. Never would I have thought that something like this would have happened, where now I'm looking at businesses in a completely different manner, in the sense of, is this industry essential? Is this industry non-essential? Like, literally moving forward with our go-to-market strategy, because our marketing does target certain industries. You got different messages depending on the industry that, we may be holding off on some of those non-essential industries, which is kind of sad, but at the same time, I need to create a business that's not going to get hung up in a situation like this again. And I've got to keep my employees employed. And I think the other lesson to be learned is that hardware isn't always, an Amazon order away. Even Amazon's struggling, right?
Yeah. It used to be, but it's not anymore. You're right.
My immediate thought was, oh, no big deal. Let's just go to Amazon. We can get some stuff off of Amazon, and sure enough, there's lack of equipment there and delays. And so when you've got even though things are out in the cloud, you still need some sort of device to use the resources out in the cloud. And having, kind of to Ed's point, having to make an exception where you're using hardware you wouldn't normally use, that you have no idea what the history has been, and just throwing some security services on there, hoping that Timmy doesn't mess with it, and hoping that, because the other challenge there is when you're dealing with a BYOD device, what type of policies does the client have in place with the employee to be able to say, hey, we're allowed to lock down your personally owned device because it's accessing our company data, right? So there's a liability there for the client as well, that they need to have in line with the BYOD policy in place.
See a lot of policy redevelopment coming after this, with electronic policies, BYOD policies. There's some extra consulting opportunities, I think, there for you guys to, probably even during this, if you have a little downtime.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing that I even take away is the government has finally said that IT services is an essential business. So, that's a good thing to take away, I guess, and we're seeing it, is how crucial it is to keep businesses going and what you all are doing behind the scenes to make sure that happens. It's not always easy. How about you, Guy? What other lessons do you take
So,
away?
after every disaster, there seems to be something that we didn't think about. When Hurricane Sandy hit the metropolitan area here, we didn't take into account. We just said, you know what, we're going to forward our phones from if we lose power in the building, we'll forward our phones. And then that would be okay to the answering service that we use. And then the phone company went out. So we couldn't forward anything. So we had to consider bringing in SIP trunks and working with companies that are out of the state so that we never have that happen again. I think with this particular experience, we've talked about backups and disaster recoveries for our clients, but we didn't really have a big focus on the business continuity plans. Where do they go? Where do the employees go? Who receives the packages at the office? Who picks up the mail? Things along the lines of physically, if you can't get to the office, how does business continue with minimal disruption? And so I think a big takeaway from this experience is going to be going back and really working with the clients and bringing that up and saying, let's review your business continuity plan and what you have for the times that you're not going to be able to be in the office like this, and add that.
I would say another area too is the online payments. That's one area where you find a lot of businesses is like, well, I really don't want to have to go back to the office. Well, they have to pick up their checks because they're still getting delivered.
And and that was a big issue. Is how do our clients? We that was a big issue. How do the clients pay us? If they're printing checks, what do? So getting them to a point and helping them get to some place where it doesn't need to be a physical location that they go to, and they can still fully conduct their business.
Yeah, I could add something to Guy's point. If you think about every business out there now is they're a technology business first, right? Without technology, they can't really deliver their products and services. And so whoever's supporting that technology, to your point, is an essential business, but also can be seen as almost like a trusted operations advisor. I mean, if you require the technology to operate your business, really, we need to get involved more with our clients now on the business continuity side, not just, what touches technology, but like literally, how can they make more use of technology to automate things? And even in a situation, like we need to care about how our clients are going to continue getting paid so we can continue getting paid. It's literally a direct, correlation. And that's something that really with this new outbreak disaster that we're dealing with is something we need to shine more light on. Is our clients rely on us to automate certain parts of their business that touch technology, but what about these other parts? Electronic billing, working from home, like almost any business, depending on what their industry they're in, can move the majority of their workforce outside of their local building. And how can we help them, in that instance?
I also wonder for those that don't have a good MSP or someone doing the tech on the side that are pushing people remote, how good their backup systems are right now. You got the perimeter is shot with many of these companies now, or at least those discussions will be easier for those that didn't want to violate their perimeter before. But how are they keeping compliant? Is all this information being protected and stored? I know for those of you that have been working in the cloud, that's an easier discussion than for those who haven't. But it'll be an interesting discussion afterwards to see where everybody's at in those QBRs and finding out what can be improved. I guess just real quick, what's the best advice you've received from others like peers, vendors, business associates during this? Is there one piece of advice that others have given you that you share with the group?
So
I'll jump in there.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
So treat your clients with compassion and understanding.
Mhm.
Let them know that you are feeling the same pain they are, and work with them. Try to work out a solution together. Because if it comes down to it, when if a client does have to make a choice of who they pay, they're more willing to pay the people who are willing to help them out and stick by them and ask them how we can come out of this mess on the other side stronger together as a team.
Yeah.
Excellent thought. Others?
Yeah, similar to what Ed was saying. Just keeping in touch with the clients, making sure that you are able to understand where you can help them, not from a sales perspective, more from a human perspective. Where can you assist them? Maybe there's some things about that maybe they're not aware about. An example is we became experts immediately when the stimulus package came out, and I contacted, as I was calling all my clients, I was asking them, hey, did you hear about this? Were you aware that this is available for you? And shockingly, some of them said, no, I had no idea. So passing a lot of the information over to them and helping them find out, what is available, what they should consider. They had no idea. One client in particular was going to be letting go of his staff, half of his staff. And I just happened to have a call with him, and I said, before you do that, there's this PPP program that you can get 2.5 months worth of your payroll covered and not have to pay it back. But the caveat is you have to keep your employees. So he held off on that. He got the information, and he called me on Monday, and he said, hey, I put my application in Friday. Thank you so much for letting me know about that. So really just
Awesome.
reaching out, anything that you can do to help them as one business owner to another business owner. Just as a person to person, not necessarily what can I sell you.
All right.
Yeah.
Better together. Everybody helping out. Brian, did you have a thought?
Yeah, I always try to look at challenges and come up with opportunities, and building relationships during this time. You have an easy excuse to reach out to people maybe you don't even normally talk to with your clients, CEO to CEO, and just have a conversation on how they're doing, and without it feeling weird that you're just calling out of the blue asking how they're doing. Right? There's a reason for you to reach out, and it shows that you care about them more than just being a client. You're really wanting to partner with them. I think that's using words like how can we get through this together, and what can I do to help you, and it definitely strengthening that relationship so that you're more than just a vendor. And then I think to add to that is your employees as well, making sure that they understand maybe the position of your company, the health of your clients. We're communicating everything openly with them. What we find out about our clients, we've literally got a shared spreadsheet called Client Health, where we're tracking, certain aspects. Are they essential business? How worried are they? Maybe, on a scale, what's their payment status? Understanding maybe some clients before this even happened, if they've had payment issues in the past or financial issues, and understanding how that might look moving forward. But I think giving your employees a clear roadmap, more up to date than you normally would, to help them understand that things are going to be okay, or even if they're not going to be okay, here's how they're going to look. We're going to struggle a little bit during this time, but hopefully with this PPP loan, we can get through this, or the EIDL is the other one, the EIDL loan. There's resources out there. And then I think getting feedback from your employees too is very valuable during this time. Understanding, like me as a CEO, I'm so overwhelmed with trying to future plan for everything that I might be missing the boat in certain areas that my employees can see. It's kind of the role of, the janitor at the company tends to know the most of what's going on and has the insight that, can be very valuable to a CEO. Not that I consider my employees janitors, but it's kind of that aspect where they're going to see and have their hands in things that I'm not aware of. So trying to make make them feel like their input's going to be valuable enough to want to give it and want to speak up and kind of try to keep an open door policy through all of this.
Yeah, no, that's excellent advice. There are so many different things I think I've even learned. Even though typically I work remote, I haven't traveled in 3 months, which is very unusual. So taking that time is like, what could I be doing? I can't do a lot of things I'd normally do. So I tried to volunteer and helping groups a little more to do, crazy things like navigate their way through Zoom. But also spending more time even with my employees to figure out, what can we be doing better and how can we improve? I kind of feel lucky that we have that time. Unfortunately, it's a bad reason why we have that time, and having empathy for others too. But fantastic stuff that you guys shared with us today. Any final thoughts? Why don't we do a quick go around, final thoughts to share with peers and others in the channel community. Guy, why don't we start with you?
So I would say, we do have a lot of projects that are not being done, and most companies are in the same boat. I think this is the time to really look internally. Everybody has probably heard of the phrase "work on your business, not in it." So this might be a great opportunity for the next few weeks while we're still in the unsure space. Go back and look at what you're doing. Build your processes and your systems. Focus on that. Be stronger when this is all over by having that completed, because everybody's so busy all the time. That's all you hear is we're just too busy. We don't have a chance to go and work on that. Here's an opportunity where you might be able to now take a step back and focus on maybe some things that were challenges for you before and make yourselves better. And then, the other thing is think about when you are coming out of this, what you are missing right now and how you can help your clients be better when this is all over. So, if it's true what they say that this is going to come back in the fall, what do you have to put into place? Where were you lacking before, and where can you help your clients be more successful?
Excellent. Yeah, urgency, I think, around that, especially that latter part too. Ed?
So with everything going on and IT being so essential, we're really like in the IT gold rush, and we're selling shovels and picks. Don't sell cheap equipment and give them your clients cheap solutions, because they will leave you as soon as they can. Some good quality equipment, and when they keep digging that for gold, they'll come right back to you.
Very good.
Give them good quality equipment.
Yeah, I think that's a good thought. And one of the things that I've been discussing too with a lot of the vendors and MSPs is don't give away too much either, because I think a lot of people have empathy and are trying to help, but realize too you're providing valuable services. So manage the discounts on a one-by-one basis. If somebody needs it, then you have it. But if you've got some companies are actually doing better now than they were before. So don't be afraid to take the payment that you're deserved, that you've worked hard to do too. Brian, final thoughts?
Yeah, I would say, really what it comes down to is, if you're not already doing it, you really need to focus on getting some standards on how you're going to enable remote workforces for your clients, whatever stack you might, figure you like the best. We're leaning on the Microsoft stack. Definitely get that in place, if not already in place with clients, and look to propose projects, after this is over, especially before a potential second wave, to get those in place. Identify projects with clients where there's business as usual or internal projects to keep your project pipeline flowing, so that you're not kind of waiting through this whole experience, not getting anything done. And even to the point where, lean on financing. We might see leasing come back into play with certain clients where they still want to get projects done. They can't afford it. Maybe you're looking at leasing or hardware as a service. This might be a good opportunity to start looking at that model, where you can finance it yourself and then provide it as a hardware as a service to your client. So I think initially, what needs to be done, if you haven't already done it, is create a client health spreadsheet of all your clients, so you have an idea of, where each client's at, and you can identify your go-to-market strategies with any projects with your existing client base. And then any new client prospecting, understand that now's the time to build relationships with existing clients. So I would focus on that first, but don't necessarily stop new client prospecting either, because there are going to be clients that need your help. Don't turn them away, but maybe look at what type of industry they're in and what their health might be before you just take on any new client, because it could turn out to be more trouble than it's worth, depending on the client, especially if they're leaving another IT company because they don't want to pay their bills. They're looking for a cheaper way to do things, or a way to avoid money they owe another company. Just be wary of that.
Very good. Excellent information. I want to definitely send a big thank you to Guy Baroan, Brian Weiss, and Ed Bensinger for sharing their experience and insight with us today on the Experts Web Panel. To our listeners, please check out the IoTSSA website for more great channel-specific cybersecurity education. And above all, we really ask everyone to take care. And if there's information or things that you need, please let us know. Thank you all again, and have a great day.